Welcome back to the Relationship Mentors podcast, episode number 35. And we've had an exciting weekend. We've been to an event for Friday, Saturday, and it's really cool. A lot of socializing. So today's really been a day of relaxing, getting our energy back. A very introverted day. I feel like we do live a sociable life to some extent, don't we?
Yeah, very much so. I feel like we are very used to having our alone time at the house,
home,
doing work on our own time, and then we get to socialize when we are wanting to. And then we had such a great time at an event for 2 whole days. Like, I feel like I was so energized for those 2 days. And then when we got home that night, or like waking up this morning, I feel like we really just felt our energy was really low. And then we even caught up with our mates this evening that all went to the event as well, and all of our energy was just it's low. We can't really have a good conversation right now.
We're trying to have a conversation and it's like none of our brains were working.
Or like make decisions, and all of us were like, no, let's just go to the beach.
This isn't happening now.
Yeah.
So with the podcast, I was listening to other people's podcasts where it's like a couple or 2 people, because we started this podcast not to bring other people on. Like, you see most podcasters interviewing guests, and it's like every podcast is so different, because it's like the guest's podcast every time, and it changes every time. But we wanted it just to be us, and for people to form a deeper connection with us. And I realized like every single week is just sharing information. Whereas like I want it way more to be just about like catching up with us and what we've been up to, and the things like that, you know?
Yeah, just like getting you guys to see more about our lives and the way that our mind works. Like, we originally started the podcast to show that, but show the information that we knew and giving you guys value, and we still want that. But we realized when we first started the podcast, we were only giving you guys value and talking,
like educating
you, rather than actually showing our personality, or like showing how we actually implement this in our relationship, because we can give advice and give an example of how we implement it. But I feel like the more that we share about our story, you can actually comprehend it more, of like why we really started this business and why we are so passionate about it, and why we educate ourselves as well on it so much.
Yeah, we've got friends on the coast here, and I was listening to their podcast. They're a couple, and they also talk about relationship stuff. And I wanted to listen to theirs, be like, what is it like listening to a couple's podcast about relationships, and what do I enjoy and what don't I enjoy? And through that, I was like, I don't care that much for the information. Like, the information is great, but hearing their stories and what's going on in their life, I was so interested, so intrigued. Like, you get to live inside someone else's life for a bit.
Yeah.
And we grew up watching YouTubers, didn't we? And it was so cool seeing inside someone else's life, and someone having that, I wouldn't want to call it escape, but being able to live someone else's life for a little bit. And it's like, that's what we want to bring more.
Yeah, it's like what I've always loved on YouTube to this day, from back in high school to still even now, are those daily vlogs where they're not doing anything, they're not educating you on anything. It's simply just chatting about their life, and they just go on their day, and it's the most mundane day ever. But I genuinely love that. And
You're just hanging out with them.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm so a part of their life and the way that they think and everything that's happening. And so like, if we love watching that so much and consuming that type of content,
why don't we create that type of content?
Exactly.
And your life can feel so normal. Like, this life we've created for ourselves feels so normal now. And we're like, it's not that special. What content have we got to create? And we're like, we always wanted to create content, but it's like, but we didn't do anything today. But then we do look back at our life. It's like, cool. It's a Tuesday. We spent the whole day like working from home, seeing friends, going to the beach, going to the gym. And I was like, fuck, me 5 years ago would have loved to watch someone's life in this.
Yeah.
That's what I'd love to get back into YouTube, like doing at least weekly vlogs, especially with our baby on the way as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be so, so cool.
I feel like that would be really interesting. Even just like leading up for the baby and like preparing for Bub.
Even personal memories from that, rather than just looking at it from a business standpoint. It's like, what if we actually enjoy it? What if we just like fall in love with the process of doing it, rather than needing it to be like an outcome, or we need to make money from this? It's like, no, let's do it as a process of enjoyment.
Yeah, and like we're benefiting from it as well, like getting to have that memory to look back on.
It's going to be so cool. Amazing. So this podcast today, we just want to talk off the cuff about how your values changed growing up. things you used to value, things you wanted when you were younger, things you cared about when you were younger, and then growing up and feeling those change. And us being 25 and 28, it's like, it feels so strange for me to be in this era now of like, okay, I'm becoming a dad and this is normal and this is what I want. And I don't want to go out partying. I don't want to go out drinking. I just want to be healthy. I want to have good friends around me. I want to build this relationship. And you see those charts growing up, not even growing up. You see those charts where it's like time spent with family, less and less. Time spent with your partner goes more and more. Have you seen it like change over time?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's literally playing out. Because when I saw those, I was like, nah, that's not going to happen to me. But they do.
Yeah. And it just goes to show, like, really statistics do show you the history and what's most likely going to repeat if certain behaviors don't change. And like what you were saying, looking at those graphs, like you spend so much time with your friends in your adolescence and early 20s, but then it decreases even more, and then you find a life partner and then that increases. And the time you spend with your parents is the most when you're first born, and then it just keeps decreasing from there.
Yeah, legit. And your values change so much over time and what's important to you. So yeah, I'd love to start with you, Mia. Like, what's something in your childhood that you found that was really, really important? Like growing up, maybe like between 10 and 15, like you were really, really important. Like this thing had to happen, but you don't find it valuable anymore.
I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind, not only from 10 to 15, I think it was like 10 to 23, probably.
Damn.
It's only because it's front of mind right now, because we were talking to one of my girlfriends this morning about it, of just like how much value I put on money and making money. And because like I started working at 12, so it's like I always knew at a very young age that I was wanting to, in order to do something, it costs money. In order to do something that you enjoyed, or if you wanted to go anywhere, it costs money. So if we didn't have enough money to go somewhere, I'm like, okay, one day I'm going to make so much money that I'm not going to be limited by this. And so then from there, when I did start watching YouTube videos and things like that, I think that came about when I was like 15 maybe. And I put so much value on making money and having money and collecting money and holding money in my bank.
Hoarding so much.
Yeah, that would be a great word, like hoarding money rather than utilizing money. I would just build it up in my bank account and not actually utilize it the best ways that I could have, because I thought if I just didn't spend it, I was saving it. And that just turns out that it wasn't that effective. And then with a conversation I was having with one of my girlfriends this morning, it's actually now realizing, when I look at my life, probably a realization I had 4 years ago, of just like, when I'm not actually utilizing that money, what is it actually costing me when I'm wanting to not have this experience or make this decision for a financial reason? Does that make sense? Like if I living at home, and before I moved out to rent my own apartment, for example, it's like if I stayed at home, I was going to save money, but what is that actually costing me? It's like, yes, I could be saving like a couple $100 a week on rent, but what is it actually costing me with the environment that I'm in, not around like-minded people or the easiness of life, or
Boring, same routine.
not inspiring. It's like, what is it actually costing you? And now with that's like the biggest value shift that I had, like the most transformational value shift that I really, really did have, because everything I did in life was always through the lens of money. I'd go to school because I was wanting to get better grades ish, like wanting to get to know more information so I would know how to make more money. Like every little thing that I did was always through the focus point of making money or having money. And then to now be like, okay, not putting money as a number one top priority, and actually putting my life and what I'm wanting as my top priority, and just seeing how much life actually succeeded doing that.
Yeah, because you can easily become a slave to money when you don't have money, because you can't afford to do anything, and you're so stuck in that. It's like, I'm such a slave to money because I can't afford to do anything. But then it happens on the other extreme where it's like money is everything. You just want to collect it. You just want to earn more. And it's like, you will sacrifice everything in your life to make more money, then you're also a slave to money. But it's like when you can utilize it.
Yeah, and the thing that really came to my mind is how much I was limiting myself. It's like I was limiting myself in so many areas of life because I thought it meant that I was saving money and I was building wealth.
Getting ahead.
Yeah, and it just goes to show it's like everything is such a learning process. But now looking back, it just goes to show how little I knew about that, because saving money is not building wealth. It's investing it. And yeah, there's so many ways to actually build wealth.
Yeah.
And that's not the way.
And people hoard money in their bank account when it's like, it's just going down in value, like 3 to 5% per year. It's like, make your money work for you. And that's what we've been really stepping into, of just getting more organized. Like, what do we actually want from life? How can we make our money work for us? Like, money does buy happiness when you earn it in a way that lights you up, and when you spend it in a way that lights you up. Mm-hmm. When you earn it in a way that you actually enjoy, like, we love what we do, and it's like earning money like that, cool, that fills us up. And then being really clear on like, who are we and what are our values, and it's like, what can we invest our money into? It's like really healthy food, experiences, things like this. It's like spending money brings you happiness. So like, money does buy happiness when you know yourself, when you're acting out of wholeness rather than insecurity.
Exactly. And you're not being a slave for the money. Of like, I just remember being, when I was 12, 13, at that age, and working at the hairdressers or working at different jobs and getting paid $13 an hour or whatever it was, just like such a little amount. And I look back now and it's like, I would now choose, okay, I could have actually taken a few hours off to go to my friend's birthday party and had created that memory with her through those moments. And that would have cost me, like, I wouldn't have earned $20 for those 2 hours that I took off. Well, now when I look, like, because now I'm like, well, I make more money than $13 an hour, so it wouldn't be worth me trading that.
Yeah.
But I would have, now looking back, I would have rather had that memory and creating those memories. And so it just goes to show, again, like, what is it actually costing you making this decision?
How is money controlling me right now? That's probably a good question to ask.
Yeah. So that was my thing of like the
What you used
biggest
to value.
my biggest value that I had from like 10 to 15, 15 to 20-ish. What would you say yours was?
It's such a classic, but caring so much about what others think and not living the way I want to live in case someone says something, in case I'm judged, in case I'm cast aside by the people that know me. It's like growing up in a small town. I grew up in a village of 20 people next to a town of around 2,000 to 3,000 people. Like, such a small environment where everyone knew everyone, which was beautiful because it was such a sense of community, and you knew everyone and what they were up to, and you knew people's family. People popped around for a cup of tea, and it was so beautiful. But at the same time, it's a small town mentality of there's not much going on. There isn't much excitement. So the only thing that you can do is talk about other people. And when your social group, all you hear them doing is tearing other people down. If anyone's trying to do anything, if anyone's trying to start a business, it's like, let's take the piss out of them. Let's make fun of them until they like don't do that thing anymore. So it's like growing up in that sort of mentality where you are cast aside if you act out of the normal procedure, like you will get judged. So I just didn't do what I wanted to do for the longest period of time. And I remember even wanting to make content. Like, I wanted to make content online talking about my experiences for over a year. And I just didn't start. I didn't post a single video because I was so scared in case someone I knew found my content of me talking about personal development. So I just held off for so long. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, nobody actually cares. Like, nobody cares as much as me. No one actually judged me. I was the only person judging me. And once I realized that, I was like, fuck, I'm actually so free to do whatever I want, because everyone is so wrapped up in their own life, worrying about what's going on for them. Like, everyone's worried about everyone judging them, that they're too busy to judge you. And that's what's going on in everyone's head.
Even it's like, well, I used to be a dancer back in high school, those days. And it's like, I remember doing the same thing. It's like, when you're teaching a dance class, it's like teaching our kids all the time. It's like, no one focusing on you as much as you think they are. You are the person that's focusing most on you, and everyone else is focusing on them.
Yeah, it's like no one's thinking about you because they're too busy thinking about what you're thinking about them.
Yes, exactly.
Like that's the quote. Like they are constantly thinking about how everyone perceives them, because there's this spotlight effect where you think the whole world revolves around you and everyone's looking at you and everyone's watching your every move in case you do something weird. But it's like nobody gives a shit because they're so busy worrying about other people. So that's the main thing I'd say. Like just not doing what I want to do because I'm so worried about judgment.
What was the thing that you feel like you took, like stopped yourself from doing the most? Like later on it was content, but it would have been...
Earlier on, I just turned into whoever I was around, you know, just to fit in.
Yeah.
It's
like
like
a sponge, and then like a sponge in a mirror.
Yeah, it's like if my best friend got into golf, I'd get into golf. If my best friend played Call of Duty, I'd play Call of Duty. It's like I never felt like I made any decisions for myself. I just lived how other people lived around me because I thought like that was normal. That's how you do it. So it's just like I had the best time. Like I love golf. I love Call of Duty. But just growing up, it's like I just never thought for myself or did what I wanted to do. I was just like, cool, this is what you're supposed to do. Let's do this.
Yeah, because in your awareness, you're like, okay, this is what people do. I must also do that now.
Yeah, and if you're in school and you lack confidence, people look at the most confident person in school and just comply with them or like do what they're doing because that must mean like they're accepted. And if I want to be accepted, that means I must do things like them. So it's like you start acting like the people around you.
It really is just a psychological thing, don't you reckon? Especially for when you look back at like the historical side of that, of like that we're just in a culture and in a tribe that you're wanting to follow the leader and they're like the strongest.
Yeah. Everything comes back to survival, hey?
Yeah.
It's like, what is the alpha male at the time doing? It's like, how can I copy that so I have a better chance of survival, so I have more status?
Yeah, so I have a bigger status for reproduction and...
Yeah, even when I was out here in Australia and just broke up with my long-term partner and I was the most upset I've ever been in my life, I cared more about looking happy than being happy. I cared way more about posting on social media and on my Instagram stories of this fun time I was having. I was out with the boys. I was maybe like hooking up with girls. I was getting drunk. I was doing all these things to make it look like I was happy, to make it look like I was doing well for myself.
Yeah.
When I was so depressed, like the happier I looked on social media, the less happy I was in real life. And that was playing out for a long time because I was like, fuck, I can't be a failure over here. I can't be depressed on this side of the world. I have to put this front on that I'm doing well.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, and like how many other people are doing the same things or have done the same thing, of like posting online to show that they're happy, but in reality they're not happy. And I know there was a big thing on social media like a couple of years ago. They were saying, oh, you know, the most richest or happiest people,
The happiest looking couples.
yeah, the happiest looking
behind the scene.
couples
Yeah.
are the worst behind the scenes. And then it's like, I can definitely see how that's played out in people's lives. Like that's how that's played out in your life. But then it's like when the content that we post, I'm like, but we genuinely are happy. So it really is just a spectrum of there are really happy or successful people online that are that in real life. And there's people that show that, but aren't that in real life.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's putting on a front. That's
Yeah,
what's
some
hard
way,
about growing up in
one
this
way or
era.
another.
How crazy that there's never going to be a child that grows up without social media ever again. Isn't that scary? Like social media is not going anywhere.
I feel like there's going to be a whole other platforms by the time like we have our baby and she's in primary school or high school. There's going to
imagine
be
what life's gonna
so
be like.
like I feel like I can't even imagine it, but I feel like the reality of the everyday is going to be so vastly different because it's like when my parents were in high school, they didn't have these phones and all these apps and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's like by the time...
She's like 14, so like 14 years from now.
Yeah.
I think 14 years ago, when I was 14 years ago, I was 14 years old and I probably just got my first mobile phone. It's like a Sony Ericsson. You swipe it up or you open it up
Yeah.
I think my dad still has one of those phones where you just flip it open.
So
He's so
cool.
old fashioned. He loves it. Like he'll never get an iPhone.
I remember my second phone is one of those phones that, if you can watch the video, but it's like where you just slide it up with your thumb.
Yeah.
And then I had like the whole keyboard, not just like the numbers where you click the numbers each time.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I had the whole keyboard that I thought I was so cool. 'Cause
Oh,
it was
like the wider one?
yeah, the like where you turn the phone to the side and you flip it up and then you text that way.
Yeah.
That was like the second phone that I ever had, and it
Fuck,
was
you're
pink.
so cool.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
was-
pink.
It was
You're
pink.
the popular chick, hey?
always.
Yeah, so like having those phones and playing Snake, and I remember it was a big thing. Like, you could Bluetooth a song to someone else.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Okay, so in saying that, I feel like we're going a bit off track. There's like my mum just bought a new phone and she was asking me about like which phone should she get? Should she get an iPhone or should she get a Samsung? I'm like, oh, I haven't used a Samsung ever. So I was like, I'm really not the right person to talk about this with. And she's like, yeah, but it's like with the iPhone, you can like, you know, Bluetooth stuff a lot easier. And then in that moment, I just remember when I was like a kid when my mum was trying to Bluetooth something to her friend and watching them trying to figure that out. And then going back into our days every day of you and I airdropping things back and forth
Yeah.
within seconds of just like how easy that's become.
And how
knowing that
normal
my
it is.
mum, like, yeah, my mum isn't even in that.
Yeah.
Like she would have no idea about that.
Yeah, and how normal that is that an image can be captured and sent through space and sent through the air to someone else's device. Like, how is that normal?
Yeah, it's like
that would be
even-
magic. If you showed that to someone 100 years ago, that would be magic. That's witchcraft.
Yeah, like we went to a wedding a couple months ago and like we're all taking videos and photos, and then all of a sudden, like with other guests and strangers came up and was like, okay, well, everyone turn on their Bluetooth and I'll just send
it.
everyone them. So he just opened his phone, turned on his AirDrop, and then clicked everyone's name, and then we got all of these photos that he took the whole day.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey,
Like the easiness and how fast that is.
it's going to be such a wild time.
So then looping this back to values, it just goes to show like how easy, for example, that is and how much that's evolved, how quickly our values can evolve to adapt that. Does that make sense? Of like we can value how fast things are and how much time freedom that we have because we don't have to spend as much time uploading all these videos, sending them to a drive and then downloading them somewhere. It's like that literally happened within 10 seconds, if that.
Yeah,
And so
that's wild. Hey, God, it's going to be such a different life. Hey, it feels so weird. Like, I was in the last age of kids that still went to like and knocked at their friend's house. Or I remember just phoning the house phone and it's like, is Harry coming to play?
that's so cute.
Isn't that so sweet? But I feel I'm the last generation, I reckon, of that. That's so crazy.
You specifically?
Just me.
Okay.
No, but our sort of generation.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't a thing for you, was it?
I feel like I definitely grew up in a household where everyone just came over whenever they wanted without calling.
It is
And
more
then,
of a country town thing. Hey?
Yeah, and if I was going to my friend's place, most of the time I would just drive there or walk. Like I wouldn't drive there, get dropped off there, or just walk there and knock on their door and be like, "Hi, do you want to play?" Like,
Yeah.
I think it would be a lot more of that. Or like I would go for a walk with my sister, then halfway through the walk we'd walk past our friend's place and then just be like, I wonder if they want to play, and then walk up to them.
What would you do? Play?
Play. That's the cutest thing. I have 3 younger sisters, 2 under 10. And when I ask them, like, what are you up to today? Like, what are your plans for the school holidays? And she always says, playing.
Like, so simple life.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
you don't think about adult shit. I remember being a kid and it's like, people said, enjoy it because you'll have responsibilities. You'll have adult stuff to worry about. Enjoy being a kid. And you're like, yeah, whatever. And then next minute, you're 28 years old on the Gold Coast filming a podcast and you got so many responsibilities.
Yeah.
And like, whoa, where did that go?
Yeah, I think it's just that there's so much innocence in that. Like, well, what have you done today? Like, what's
Playing.
yeah, is it playing? Just played together. Like, oh, it's just so
Will you play
sweet.
with me? It's like, yes, I will play with
It's like
you.
the most wholesome thing.
Oh, that's so sweet. And we're like being in the era now of having kids. Like that's the biggest value shift of like how much I want a stress-free life and to have time. As like the last 4 years has been so much uncertainty of figuring shit out. It's like, cool, this entrepreneurial thing, business owner, cool, not having to work for anyone else, work for ourselves. There's been so many fuck ups and stumbling blocks along the way to get to this point, but it's like, cool, we have set up this life for ourselves so we can have time, freedom, and peace when we raise a child. So it's really cool, like, having gone through that to create this now.
Exactly. It's like, I remember writing down when I was in high school, I think I was in grade 10, and I was just going through a hard mental moment of my life, probably for like 2 years.
A lot of mental health, yeah.
At that point. And I remember writing down, like, okay, it's like, what do I actually want out of life? Like, what do I value? I think I listened to some YouTube video that is like, you know, you need to write down your values, like, write down your why. I'm like, I have no idea. It's like, I don't even know myself. How do I know what my why is? So I sat down, I'm like, okay, what do I really care about? I'm like, okay, I care about family. I want to have my own family, and I want freedom. It's like, I just want to have a lot of money. So like, but why do you want money? Like, so it just buys me freedom so I can spend more time with my family, which then just showed, like, okay, my number one value is my immediate family, of me creating my own family. And then ever since grade 10, I've just been building that, of like wanting to create that. And now, well, like 15 years later, 10 years later, 11 years later, that's what we have created together.
And here we are.
Yeah. So it's like, we've worked for over the last decade to create the life that we're having now. So it's so cool that we're getting to bring in our baby into the world, or create our own family of what we've been working for so long. And then knowing that, like, my number one top value is I'm achieving that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say, yeah, your top value would be family, or like being a mum?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so sweet. Aw. Mia's 29 weeks pregnant. Are you 29 yet?
I thought you were going to say 29 years old. I'm like, no. I'm almost coming up to 29 weeks. I'm just
In like a day or two.
I feel like for the last 2 weeks, we've been telling everyone that I'm 28 weeks pregnant. So it's just been going longer and longer and longer. I think I'm like 28 and a half weeks.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So,
what would you say, just to loop it back around, what would you say your number one priority or value is now in life when you look at it?
probably health. Like health, I find just more and more important as I'm getting old. Like my energy, how I feel when I wake up in the morning, how tired I am throughout the day, how I feel in my body. Do I have aches and pains? It's like that sort of stuff, making sure I'm healthy, that I can like run around with the kids and stuff.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Because like you are at such a young age, and you've always, since I've known you, you've always valued health to an extreme, in my opinion, an extreme level of like just your everyday habits are extremely healthy. Like your unhealthy day is like my most healthy day almost of just like how lean you eat and how much you exercise and look after yourself. It's like, did something happen that you were so unhealthy or saw so much unhealthiness that you were wanting to be extremely healthy?
I think I've just unconsciously linked my health to my happiness. When I'm not working out, when I feel like I'm getting skinny, when I've got spots, when I've got aches and pains, I just feel less and less happy. It's like when I'm in a role with Jim, when I'm eating well, when I'm getting up early, when I'm sleeping well, I just feel so good about myself. So it's like, I really notice that health is the main driver for happiness for me.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm healthy, everything else works off that. So it's like
That's
every
great.
single day doing shit that makes, and I can't remember last time I had a program in the gym or a program for fitness. It's just so drained into me. Like today I'm doing something for my body. Like I'm going for a run, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to do yoga, I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
And that feels really nice.
And that's something that you are so great at, and you've taught me so much about the health of not just exercise, but food as well. It's like something that I've shared with you a lot. It's like it wasn't until I met you that I realized all the information that I had about health was all through a diet culture lens that I didn't actually know.
And the food pyramid.
Yeah, and the
shit
food
like that.
pyramid and like all these things that like generally doesn't show exactly how it benefits my body. It was just like, eat an apple, why you should and why you shouldn't. It can kill you. It's great for you. You should only eat apples, or like more so bananas.
And it's so extreme these days, hey?
It's so
food.
extreme.
Oh my God, you watch content online like, if you don't eat eggs, you're gonna die. If you eat eggs, you're gonna die. If you drink milk, you're this. If you're plant-based, you're this. If you eat meat, you're gonna die. It's just so extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I'm so proud that I'm like our daughter is and future children are going to grow up with a dad that just knows the importance of food. Does that make sense? Of just like, because you don't force, it's like, no, you can't eat that, it's unhealthy. It's just like, oh, this, you should eat this because it fuels, this is how you should start the day. And it's like, you've taught me so much about that, of like the first thing that you eat in the morning is so important, that it should be like protein, and you shouldn't eat carbs in the morning because it like what it does to your brain. And you explain that so well. And for our daughter to grow up in a household to have such a healthy relationship with food and exercise, and it all be a part of like becoming, like staying healthy and having a great mindset and like getting to have a strong body. Like I think that's just going to be such a healthy environment to grow up in.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I feel like we've created such a good environment in that. And you just being so emotionally aware and attentive and affectionate and just going to pour so much love into our daughter. I'm so excited for that.
That's really, I feel like it's really easy for us to see each other's best benefits.
Yeah.
With that. Because I was just thinking that, it's like,
what am I bringing to the table?
what am I bringing to the table? But like I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that's so true.
It's beautiful, hey?
Yeah. And I feel like that's why we make such a great team. It's like the things, we are very similar and have very similar values, but the things that we both really know, like you know so much about food. I'm very emotionally and aware.
Your feelings, yeah.
And nurturing.
That's such a big thing for relationships. Like I speak to relationships. I don't speak to relationships. I speak to men and women about relationships on the daily. And the biggest pattern I see is not appreciating each other. It's like you both bring shit into the relationship. You both bring positives into the relationship. And you need to be aware of that and realize it's okay to have both. It's normal to have both. It'd be weird if there wasn't both. And just really seeing what the other person, like the gold in the other person and what they do bring, and appreciating them for that. Because if you don't feel appreciated in your relationship, you're not going to put effort in. You're not going to want to hang around with your partner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I kind of like this style of podcast of like not just educating, talking about a single thing. It's just like, we would have this conversation anyway, you know?
Yeah, I was
like,
just thinking
it feels
that
so much more natural.
This is just us having a normal conversation.
Exactly. And we're learning as we go. Like this podcast saying, what are we, episode 35? It's like, we're just learning as we go. And I feel like this is a sort of layout of just talking naturally, like the conversations we would naturally have, rather than the educational shit that we wouldn't talk about usually.
Yeah, I think it just has, like, it just has been a lot easier to have a conversation. Where I feel like all the podcasts we do are very easy to do.
Yeah.
It's just, this evening has been a nice and different.
Yeah, it's like we're just hanging out and like reflecting on old memories and stuff. And I feel like having segments for the podcast where it's, I don't know, there is some theme every week. I don't know, like not a different theme, but like there's segments, like we read out a funny story from someone, like someone sends in a funny story and we read that, and then we catch up and then we do something. I don't know, something people know what they're tuning in for.
Yeah, I think overall it's like we both know that we're wanting to change the structure of the podcast, and like what you just explained, like having different segments for different parts and having us share more of our stories and experiences and having more of a chat and a laugh together. It was like also getting to hear your thoughts on how we should structure our podcast, or what you guys would like to hear more of, or if you do have funny situations that have happened in your relationship that you want us to share on the podcast, or not just questions that you guys send in.
Yeah, we'd love you guys to just message us with suggestions for the podcast. Like, what do you enjoy? What don't you enjoy? Because I feel like just sharing information every week, people don't form a connection with information. Information's everywhere. There is so much information in the world, but it's like, there's only one of me, there's only one of you, there's only one of this person and that person. It's like, why do people tune into Joe Rogan? Because they want to hear Joe Rogan talking about random shit. They don't care that much about the information.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I feel like that's what the winning podcasts do. It's like the person behind it and really hearing their stories rather than the actual information.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, more sharing stories, more chilled out, and we get to play with this, which is great.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Yeah,
Okay.
stay tuned. It'll be changing. I'm excited for it. Amazing.
Yeah.
We are signing off. It is a Sunday evening, and do I have some brownie before bed?
Up to you, sweetie.
You've had some brownie today, hey?
I did. I've done lots of cooking today.
You have.
Had breakfast and brownies and spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, you've done so well.
All in the morning, and then I've just spent the rest of the day off.
Yeah, chilling out.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we would love it if you reached out on Instagram and just share what you love about the podcast or what you'd like more of in the podcast. It just really helps us figure out what to create and yeah, just make it so much easier for us. So thank you guys so much. Tune in every single Monday morning and catch you next time.